Welcome! This is Dr. Plague, and today we're gonna continue our little series on how slow an 8088 can operate. If you haven't seen my first video on the 8088, then please go back and watch it. I'll place a link in the description below. In this video, we're going to do something a little different. We're gonna compare the Intel 8088 with an AMD clone and an NEC V20 compatible. I also have a little surprise to show you afterwards. I think we'll get some exciting results today, so please stick around. So, if you watched my last video on the 8088, you probably saw that I was testing an authentic Intel 8088. But there are other manufacturers that made clones and compatibles. And how do they compare to Intel? First of all, you may be scratching your head wondering, what the heck am I doing? Sometimes I wonder too. But why are we trying to slow this processor down? There are a couple reasons I'm doing this. First, it's a fun thing to do, wouldn't you agree? Yeah, I know, my idea of fun is a little weird, but you already knew I'm a little weird, didn't you? Okay, so I'm very weird, but the second reason for running it slowly is for educational purposes. This allows us to connect up LEDs and such, so we can examine the operation. Try reading the LEDs at 2 MHz. It's impossible. You could connect a scope or logic analyzer to run it faster, but many hobbyists don't have all this fancy equipment for analyzing signals. So let's just have some fun with this. Now, I'm going to show you the operation of the 8088 again to refresh your memory. We're going to show it running at 10 Hz so we can see what is happening. Remember I said it will start running at the hexadecimal address FFFF0? Since we have only 8 LEDs wired up, after we press and release the reset switch, we should see the 4 rightmost LEDs start out unlit and the next 4 LEDs to the left lit up before they start counting. I'll show you this again and pause right after I release the switch. Notice we have 4 lit LEDs followed by 4 unlit LEDs. Now I'll unpause it and you'll see the LEDs counting upwards. Perfect. I have another 8088 processor here from AMD, aka Advanced Micro Devices. It is a clone and should operate the same as the Intel version. But will it also run as slow as the Intel 8088? Let's swap the Intel 8088 for the AMD 8088. Okay, let's power this thing up and run it at 10 Hz. Now, let's press the reset switch to see if it starts at the correct address. Uh-oh. Notice this did not start at FFFF0 hex. Let's try 100 Hz. Still not working. What the heck happened there? Did you see that? Let's show it again. Wow, this thing is flaky. How about 1 kHz? It's running very fast, but appears to work. Let's try to pause it after releasing the reset switch. It's running so fast that the camera has a hard time capturing this, but you can see the upper 4 bits are lit up. By the way, 4 bits is called a nibble, so we have the lower nibble, which should start unlit, and the upper nibble, which should start lit up. So the AMD only appears to work down to about 1 kHz. Remember, we can't say that the entire processor works at this low of a speed. We can just say the tests that we are performing seem to work. You know how you pay more for a name brand? This kinda shows you something, doesn't it? But seriously, we can't fault AMD since it isn't spec'd to work at these low of speeds. I'm sure the AMDs work fine at the correct speeds. Now, I have something interesting to replace the 8088 with. There's a company called NEC, which was known as the Nippon Electric Company, who developed a compatible processor to the 8088. Their compatible processor was known as the V20, and here it is. It supposedly executes faster than the Intel version, not because it uses a different clock speed, but rather it uses less clock cycles to perform certain instructions. So it's basically an optimized 8088. I'm going to replace the AMD 8088 with the NEC V20, but first, let's see if you can guess how slow we'll get this to go. Please pause this video and leave a comment with your guess on the slowest speed we can get our test to work at. Your choices are 1,000, 100, 10, or 1 Hertz. Then unpause the video and see if you were right. Now, since the last processor did not work below 1 kHz, we'll start the V20 test at 1 kHz, aka 1,000 Hertz. And looking good so far. It's tough to pause at this speed since it all blurs together, but we can kinda see the F0 hex. Let's try 100 Hertz. And this looks good. We can see the correct starting address, a little blur due to the speed, but we can tell it starts out at F0 hex. Now, can we get 10 Hertz to work? Look at that! 10 Hertz works with flying colors. We can even pause very nicely on the beginning address. Cool, now let's try 1 Hertz. Do you think it can work? Oh, not good. See how the address just froze in the high state? Let's try resetting it. We need to hold the reset switch for at least 4 seconds. Nothing. Let's put it back to 10 Hertz and try it again. Oh, it just took off. I didn't even need to reset it. Back to 1 Hertz. And same thing. Yeah, we're not going to get it to work at 1 Hertz, but we did get it to work down to 10 Hertz, so I'm still impressed. And if you guessed 10 Hertz, then congratulations, you were right. Now, earlier I told you that I had a little surprise to show you, but before I do, you might be wondering how I was planning on further testing the 8088 with additional instructions. Well, what I want to show you is my new setup for testing the 8088. I had thought of a few ways of doing this, and this is what I came up with. What I have here is an ATmega 328 microcontroller wired up to the 8088. I wrote a little code to monitor the 8088 so we can see what is happening. Later, I will expand upon this code so that we can inject instructions into the 8088. Now, I could have used a flash memory chip, such as one of these, and I have no shortage of them, but the microcontroller will give us a little more testing capabilities. I could use this setup to simulate memory wired up to the 8088. I'll explain some more about this setup in a future video, but I just want to show you how I plan on doing this. The Mega 328 is connected to the shared address and data bus of the 8088, and will monitor the address line enable along with the read and write pins. I'll also have it control the reset line in the future. This is the full setup, and I will use the UART of the Mega 328 to connect to a data terminal on an old laptop. Whenever the 8088 performs a read or write, the Mega 328 will send to the UART the address along with either an R for read or a W for write, and then the data. After I expand the firmware, the Mega 328 will send data or instructions to the 8088 whenever the 8088 performs a read operation. So let's take a quick look at how this currently monitors the bus on the 8088. If I press then release the reset switch, you can see the addresses increment with instructions of 90 hex. If you remember from my previous video on the 8088, the 90 hex opcode represents the no-op instruction. The R between the addresses and instructions indicate that the 8088 performed a read operation. Let's back up to the beginning and zoom in a little closer. And you can see the addresses start at F0 hex, as we would expect, and then continue to increment. This is exactly how we would expect the 8088 to operate. So, I'll finish up the firmware for the Mega 328 and try to make some future videos to further test out the 8088 at slow speeds. What I envision is creating a system that will allow me to enter some opcodes in the terminal and then execute them. That way, I won't need to keep recompiling and reprogramming the microcontroller. Please leave any comments you may have below. So, if you like this video, be sure to peck at that like button, and don't forget to subscribe and peck at that notification bell to be notified of all my new videos as they become available. Thank you, and we'll see you next time, right here on Dr. Play.